I knew she was going to be great, and I knew that we needed a really great point guard to give us a shot, right? That we had some other pieces, but when you got her, that's when you started to really see that this kid was wired so differently and what she could do. I mean, she makes the extraordinary ordinary.
I believe growing her physical strength and her ability to exist in spaces against bigger, stronger athletes than what she faced in college. So obviously future Hall of Famer, and has had a great impact on the game already.
The arrival of Caitlin Clark to the WNBA has caused a massive stir, not only because of her rare skill set but also her magnetic personality that keeps attracting new fans by the day. The league is still adjusting to her impact, scrambling to find ways to slow down the rising superstar, a task far easier said than done. Caitlin has become the talk of the league, and it's no surprise that WNBA head coaches are constantly being asked about her during their media sessions. While most coaches try to stay diplomatic and avoid sparking controversy, they often have no choice but to weigh in on Caitlin Clark and her electrifying game. Many of their comments focus on her on-court dominance and are framed around specific matchups, but if you read between the lines, there's much more to uncover. What these coaches are saying might just reveal the real truth about Caitlin Clark's future in the WNBA. The opinions of head coaches hold weight. They're the ones designing game plans to stop her, and they take the heat from the media when those plans fail, which happens often. This is likely why you'll rarely find disrespect in their remarks. They understand her game deeply and know why she's putting up historic rookie numbers. That said, rival coaches aren't ready to crown her unbeatable just yet. Coaches are a proud bunch, so it's only natural that some respond with defiance when asked about Caitlin Clark. There's another layer too, their role as motivators. Every comment they make quickly reaches their locker rooms, and no coach wants her players thinking she favors Clark over them. But at the same time, provoking Clark with dismissive comments can be just as risky. Personality plays a role as well, and some of the most candid takes on Clark come from former WNBA stars who are now coaches, like Becky Hammon, the six-time All-Star, WNBA assist leader, and current head coach of the Las Vegas Aces. Known for her honesty, Hammon was completely blunt when addressing the Caitlin Clark phenomenon that's dominated headlines for months.
I think she's amazing. I watched every time I possibly could. And our league loves her. This has nothing to do. We're just doing our job. We're going to show up. Who is ever on the other team is on the other team. We don't really care. We're going to show up and do us. And so I think this narrative of like everybody hating on Caitlin Clark, and even the black and white thing, knock it off. It's not there.
Coach Hammon made it clear that she respects Caitlin Clark, but she also defends the WNBA veterans who challenged the college scoring legend when she entered the pros. The competitive fire that defines the league is a far better explanation for the rough welcome Clark received than the racial narratives pushed by a few players and media voices in recent months. Becky Hammon is direct about this, and she's likely right. It's time to stop dragging Clark's name into every debate and just let her hoop. The truth is, nearly every coach and player in the WNBA would love to have Caitlin on their roster, but since they don't, some downplay her success out of pride. Perhaps the clearest example came from Minnesota Lynx head coach Cheryl Reeve, who shared her thoughts back when Clark was still at Iowa. Since her team wasn't in contention for Clark in the draft, Reeve gave a passionate response to the controversy around tanking for top prospects. When asked about the idea of losing games intentionally to draft Caitlin Clark, her words sparked debate across the league.
You're going to ask me privately, are we going to tank for Caitlin Clark and like that? Like, it's just not how I would do things. If Glenn came to me and said, Cheryl, I want you to do that, I probably would step aside and say, let someone else do that. I don't believe in that. I think if you get there organically and that's what you deserve, great. I am never going to try to be in that situation. Caitlin Clark might make you want to lose every game, but not here.
Many coaches may share Reeve's stance, but her comments definitely push the limits. Intentionally losing games to improve draft position is an unsportsmanlike move that often backfires. Mentioning both the team owner and Clark by name was also unnecessary and stirred controversy. Whether any teams near the bottom of the standings last season truly lost on purpose remains unclear, but it's fair to say some didn't mind their position given the strength of the incoming draft class. Since then, Cheryl Reeve's tone has shifted significantly when speaking about Caitlin Clark, and what she's saying now is far more impressive.
I believe growing her physical strength and her ability to exist in spaces against bigger, stronger athletes than what she faced in college. So obviously future Hall of Famer, and has had a great impact on the game already.
Young players always need time to adjust and make an impact at the next level, so it was expected that the Indiana Fever might struggle early in the season. But as Caitlin Clark grew more comfortable in her new surroundings, the team transformed before everyone's eyes. Stephanie White, a former Indiana Fever player herself and now the head coach of the Connecticut Sun, as well as the reigning Coach of the Year, shared a particularly insightful take on the Fever's progress throughout Clark's rookie campaign.
Well, I think anytime you're a young team that's really growing into yourself, the understanding of one another, the timing, the pace, the connectedness just wasn't quite there early. It's there now. Everybody on the floor understands how, when, and where Caitlin Clark can get them the ball, and so they get there.
I think anytime you're a young team that's still growing into itself, the understanding, timing, pace, and connectedness just aren't quite there early on. But they are now, said Stephanie White. Everyone on the floor understands how, when, and where Caitlin Clark can get them the ball, and so they get there. This may be one of the most balanced and thoughtful assessments of Clark's season we've heard all year. It's true that the Fever struggled with chemistry early, and that showed in the win-loss column. Their surge in the standings was certainly fueled by Caitlin Clark, but several other players deserve credit for carrying their share of the load. Stephanie White acknowledges that, while also reminding everyone to be patient with a young team still finding its identity. Her words echo the sentiment of many other WNBA head coaches, those with the sharpest basketball minds and the most insight into the game. Another strong perspective on Clark's evolution into a superstar came from Sandy Brondello, the Australian-born head coach of the New York Liberty, who shared her first-hand observations from matchups against the Indiana Fever.
Look, she's a great young talent, and you have to remember that she's a young talent. She's coming into the WNBA for the first time. She's going to be a really good player. I know that much. But it's hard coming in as the number one. When's the last time a number one pick has come in and dominated from the start? And I think she's had some really good moments for sure. She had 20 in the first game, and you were able to keep her to single digits in that last game. But very capable, can't leave her open. So I think the whole game plan's around her, and she's going to be a player that will continue to grow because I think she's a quick learner, she's got high basketball IQ. So yeah, she's going to be okay.
It's not talked about enough. The pressure placed on Caitlin Clark, Brondello noted. She came in as a college phenom, a media superstar, and the number one pick in a loaded draft class. Taking that into account, Clark's smooth transition to the pros looks even more impressive, especially considering that veteran coaches like Brondello are throwing everything in their defensive playbooks at her. It's becoming clear that Clark will develop into a more complete player, though no one truly knows what her ceiling might be. For now, she isn't being handed anything, not on the court, and not in the media room. Los Angeles Sparks head coach Curt Miller is among those who still believe it's possible to slow her down. After splitting 2 games against Indiana, Miller gave Clark high praise, but quickly balanced it with credit to his team's defense. His remarks offered a classic double-edged take.
She's so talented and she draws so much attention, and then, what's so underrated about her is her passing. Tonight, she was able to get to the foul line a lot, which supplemented her offense. But, I thought we did a pretty good job both games on her.
Coach Miller doesn't seem overly concerned about Caitlin Clark. Either he has an excellent poker face, or he genuinely believes her production came mostly from free throws. Clark dropped 30 points in one game and nearly recorded a triple-double in the other, but for Miller, that still counted as solid defense. He's not alone in that thinking. Many WNBA coaches emphasize defensive execution rather than Clark's brilliance, regardless of the game's outcome. Among the most vocal is Eric Thibault, the head coach and top basketball executive of the Washington Mystics. After facing Clark, he made a point to publicly praise each of his defenders for their individual effort against her.
I think we did a pretty good job one-on-one. They started running her off more screens, and that's a little tougher. Didi's big, trying to navigate all those screens. I thought we did a pretty good job one-on-one. Ariel took a turn on her down the stretch too, trying to keep Ariel out of foul trouble a little bit early in the game. Hey, she makes a tough shot. We forced her into 8 turnovers, but she made some tough-ass shots. So credit to Caitlin.
That was pure class from Dawn Staley. She had every reason to celebrate her team's win, yet she took the time to thank the very player her squad had just defeated. She also spoke openly about Caitlin's WNBA future, words that, looking back, now seem almost prophetic. Her comments captured what every basketball professional already understands. Clark's influence reaches far beyond wins and losses. Interestingly, one of the strongest endorsements of Clark came from a coach whose team had fierce on-court battles with her, Phoenix Mercury head coach Nate Tibbetts. In a detailed analysis, he broke down exactly why Clark is already one of the toughest players to defend. Tibbetts predicted that as she gains experience, no defensive scheme will be able to contain her for long. The version of Caitlin Clark we're seeing now is already a nightmare for defenses, and as her game matures, the league may have to completely rewrite its playbook just to keep up.
And I want to personally thank Caitlin Clark for lifting up our sport. She carried a heavy load for our sport, and it just is not going to stop here on the collegiate tour. But when she is the #1 pick in the WNBA draft, she's gonna lift that league up as well. So
the point is, Caitlin Clark is already a complete offensive player. You can't sag off her or she'll score at will, and if you send help, she'll find open shooters with ease. Trying to confuse her with unusual defensive setups might work for a short time, but there's no doubt that Clark will quickly learn to recognize those traps and stay a step ahead of her opponents. The league as a whole is slowly realizing that Caitlin will be a problem for years to come, even if admitting it publicly is difficult. Some WNBA coaches seem frustrated by all the attention surrounding her and wish the focus would shift back to basketball itself. While that might sound reasonable, denying Caitlin her well-earned moment in the spotlight isn't fair, especially coming from a coach whose players were responsible for much of the rough treatment she's endured. The Chicago Sky, one of the teams that tried to get physical with Clark, has a coach in Teresa Weatherspoon who still insists that the talk around non-basketball issues is overblown.
What makes it effective is Clark's shooting ability and passing ability. She puts a lot of pressure on you with, both areas. She can come off and shoot it, but then she's a great passer. And the more she's in the league, she's even going to become a better passer because she's going to see everything. Coaches, teams are throwing everything at her. And, that's what great players see. The more reps they get at it, they're going to continue to improve. And she has that ability to improve.
There's nothing wrong with competing hard and showing skill and versatility, but ignoring the hard fouls and hostility toward Clark is simply disingenuous. Teresa Weatherspoon clearly understands what Clark's rise to superstardom means for the women's game, yet she prefers to steer the conversation back to basketball fundamentals instead of the bigger picture of how Caitlin is transforming the sport. That said, Clark's play and her composure on the court have been nothing short of exemplary. Even if the focus were purely on basketball, she would still dominate the headlines, whether the Chicago Sky, their head coach, or their own standout rookie Angel Reese like it or not. Other coaches, however, are taking a different approach, choosing to give Clark the respect she deserves, perhaps to neutralize her competitive edge. The Seattle Storm, for instance, have also played her physically, but their head coach Noelle Quinn has been refreshingly honest and generous with her praise. She offered one of the most optimistic assessments of Caitlin's game we've heard so far, highlighting all the traits that make her such a special player.
It has been a lot of talk. To talk about women's basketball is pretty big. It's a big thing. It's huge. But what you want it to be spoken about is the game, the skill, the talent, versatility, how hard we play, what they have to do to be able to step between those four lines all the time. And to talk about competitors. They're out there to compete to go win.
That kind of opinion aligns perfectly with what fans are seeing, and it's safe to assume most coaches agree, even if they're not saying it out loud just yet. Over time, more of them will feel compelled to acknowledge it openly, especially as Clark continues to post huge numbers and grind out wins against their teams. She's that rare type of player who's redefining the look and feel of women's basketball, bringing it closer than ever to the modern NBA style. That's why Noelle Quinn calling her a generational talent carries real weight. It could be the first step toward Caitlin receiving the league-wide recognition she deserves. Of course, one coach has every reason to sing her praises: Indiana Fever head coach Christy Sides. She and Clark seem to share a strong connection, and Sides couldn't be happier to have a true game-changer leading her team. She doesn't hide her admiration either, as her recent comments show.
She's a good player. Shot-making ability, deep. We don't talk enough about her passing. Her being 6 feet, she can see a lot, make a lot of reads, and obviously teams are being aggressive on her, and she's still, finding ways to, score, get to the rim, and assist her teammates. She's confident, she's poised, she's different, she's a beast. We talk about her being a generational talent. She has a lot of talent, and she's going to continue to keep getting better.
Christy Sides was asked about the Rookie of the Year race, but her response went far beyond a simple endorsement. She spoke about Clark's relentless competitiveness, even comparing her mindset to that of a WNBA legend, while also emphasizing the importance of team success. Sides reminded everyone that individual awards only matter if they come alongside collective growth, and the improving chemistry between Clark and her teammates is proof that the Fever are building something special. While Christy Sides may not be the most neutral observer, her perspective carries weight because it comes from daily experience working with Caitlin. In just a few months, Clark has earned the genuine respect of some of the league's top basketball minds, a clear sign of a future superstar. Few rookies command that level of admiration so quickly. Still, she'll continue to face new tests every night, and opposing coaches won't stop crafting defensive schemes to slow her down. Judging by how she's handled both criticism and praise at just 22 years old, it's safe to say Caitlin Clark will only use those challenges as fuel. Most coaches agree, the best is yet to come, and the fans who followed her since day one are in for an unforgettable ride that could include multiple championships before it's all said and done.